Inside a luxury suite high above the championship game, Nicky crosses paths with a flamboyant, eccentric billionaire gambler named Yuan-Se. What begins as a series of harmless, playful wagers quickly transforms into high-stakes psychological warfare. Small bets on trivial game details rapidly escalate into massive sums, each carefully engineered to exploit pride and competitive impulse. Se wins repeatedly. Nicky appears increasingly desperate, watching stacks of cash vanish as he aggressively doubles down. The atmosphere grows incredibly heavy with every consecutive loss. Jess sits nearby in total shock, visibly terrified by his uncharacteristic, reckless behavior. She has never seen her calm mentor lose control like this. Around them, the roar of the stadium crowd blends seamlessly with mounting internal tension. Nicky continues pushing the stakes higher, completely spiraling until he gambles away the crew's entire $1.2 million haul, alongside his own funds. His confidence appears shattered, leaving him over $2 million in debt. The high-stakes adrenaline of the historic Super Bowl victory fades almost instantly. Away from the cheering stadium crowds and crew celebrations, Nicky shares a quiet ride with Jess on the way to the airport. He hands her a bag containing $80,000, her official share of the take. The gesture seems fair, but his cold, detached demeanor signals that something is deeply wrong. Their conversation turns sharp and distant, his usual warmth completely vanishes. Before they even reach the terminal, reality strikes with brutal precision. Without warning, Nicky orders the driver to pull over, turns to Jess, and coldly tells her that their partnership is finished. No dramatic argument follows, and no emotional explanation softens the sudden blow. He simply steps out into the city streets and walks away, leaving her behind. Jess sits frozen in the back seat, struggling to process the sudden betrayal. After everything they experienced, she expected genuine honesty. Instead, she receives total abandonment. While the traffic continues moving around her, she remains trapped in a state of absolute shock. For Nicky, leaving is a ruthless necessity. The deeper his feelings grew, the more vulnerable he became, and walking away is his desperate attempt to regain total psychological control. Yet, his face betrays visible pain as he leaves. Neither wins this psychological game. One is completely heartbroken, while the other is haunted by his own choice. Their paths split into completely different skies, leaving behind unresolved questions that will linger for years. On a cold New York night, veteran con artist Nicky Spurgeon moves through a crowded restaurant with the relaxed confidence of a man who sees patterns where everyone else sees people. Across the room, a beautiful stranger named Jess suddenly slides into his world. She claims another man won't leave her alone and asks Nicky to play along as her boyfriend. The chemistry feels spontaneous, almost believable, and for a moment the encounter looks like pure chance. Intrigued by her charm, Nicky follows her up to her hotel room as the flirtation escalates. Then the door bursts open. A furious husband storms in holding a gun, demanding answers. Panic floods the room, but Nicky barely blinks. While Jess and her partner try to pressure him into handing over cash, he calmly dismantles their performance piece by piece. Every fake emotion, every rehearsed threat, every hesitation becomes obvious under his gaze. Instead of becoming their victim, he exposes the scam entirely, pointing out their amateur errors. What should have been an easy score turns into an embarrassing lesson. Yet rather than walking away, Nicky becomes fascinated by Jess's raw determination. Beneath her rookie mistakes he sees massive potential. For Jess, meeting Nicky is like discovering a hidden doorway into a much larger universe, one built on deception, psychology, and flawless precision. The encounter ends not with an arrest or a fight, but with the beginning of a complex partnership neither of them fully understands. A few days later, Jess tracks Nicky down at a local New York lounge. Recognizing his legendary status among grifters, she refuses to be dismissed and slyly steals his wallet to prove her raw potential. Intrigued, Nicky introduces her to the core rule of the trade right there on the snowy city streets: distraction. He demonstrates that the human brain can only focus on one thing at a time, and if you control their focus, you control their reality. Agreeing to bring her into his upcoming operation, the dynamic shifts to New Orleans, where her true field training begins. Surrounded by high-density festival crowds, Nicky shares dark stories about his father and grandfather, men who lived by the same ruthless code. One chilling story details a gunshot, serving as a warning about losing focus when emotions enter the equation. The words linger heavily. As Jess practices in the crowded streets, her confidence grows rapidly. Small, successful lifts slowly replace her initial uncertainty. Nicky begins seeing her not merely as an amateur student, but as someone highly capable of surviving this dangerous world. The relationship remains strictly professional on the surface, yet subtle glances and lingering conversations suggest something much deeper forming underneath. Neither acknowledges the tension directly. In their business, emotional attachment creates fatal weaknesses. Still, the line separating mentorship from attraction becomes harder to see with every passing day. Now fully embedded in New Orleans during the chaotic week of the championship game, Jess is introduced to the staggering scale of Nicky's operations. What first appears to be random street crime is actually a highly organized, corporate-like machine. Under the guidance of Farhad, Nicky's brilliant and crude tech specialist, the massive crew of professional pickpockets moves through crowded festivals, busy bars, and packed French Quarter sidewalks with astonishing efficiency. Jess's initial training instantly transforms into a high-stakes deployment. Dressed elegantly to attract maximum attention, she steps directly into the field where every prolonged glance, accidental bump, or brief conversation becomes a tool for theft. She lifts wallets, clears luxury watches, and gathers critical intelligence while remaining entirely invisible in plain sight. From a careful distance, Nicky tracks her performance, evaluating her instincts under pressure. The city pulses with music and flashing lights, serving as a perfect shield while hundreds of thousands of dollars change hands in secret. Jess proves her worth continuously, earning the absolute respect of the veteran grifters. More importantly, she cements a flawless rhythm with Nicky. As they orchestrate complex, rapid-fire cons side by side, their professional trust naturally deepens into a powerful personal bond. Swept up in the dizzying momentum of an elite criminal enterprise, Jess realizes she has fully crossed over into a thrilling, seductive world of absolute psychological control. Success creates intimacy. After another highly profitable night, Nicky and Jess finally stop pretending their powerful attraction doesn't exist. Away from the noise of the city, they spend the evening together, and the walls around Nicky begin to crack. Jess asks deep questions nobody else dares ask. She wants to know about his inner circle, his crew nickname Mellow, the dark stories surrounding his family, and the reasons behind his deep emotional distance. Nicky answers carefully, revealing small fragments while keeping his deepest wounds hidden. For a man who survives by controlling every single situation, true vulnerability feels unfamiliar and incredibly dangerous. As their relationship grows intensely personal, conflicting emotions begin pulling at him. Jess sees genuine possibility in their shared future. Nicky sees an absolute liability. Every lesson he ever learned from his father warned against becoming attached. In the con business, emotions cloud judgment and create fatal hesitation when instinct demands immediate action. Yet despite those lifetime warnings, he finds himself lowering his guard completely around her. The realization unsettles him more than any criminal threat. Meanwhile, the crew's brilliant operation reaches astonishing profits, clearing over $1.2 million before the championship game even begins. Everyone celebrates the historic haul, completely unaware that Nicky's internal battle is becoming harder to ignore. Surrounded by success, he finds himself dangerously distracted by the one thing he was taught to avoid. Jess believes they are building something real. Nicky fears that real feelings will destroy them both. Say eagerly senses this ultimate weakness and becomes even more aggressive, fully believing he has found a broken target he can utterly dominate. Every victory feeds the billionaire's massive ego. Every setback pushes Nicky deeper into a state of apparent panic. Yet beneath the surface, subtle details hint that a completely different game is unfolding. Tiny, repeating visual cues emerge across the suite. Jess notices fragments but cannot assemble the terrifying picture, setting the stage for a final wager that seems impossible to win. With absolutely nothing left to lose, Nicky proposes one final, insane double-or-nothing challenge. He tells Say to pick any random player on the field, and Jess, using binoculars from the suite window, must guess that player's jersey number. The odds sound completely impossible, and millions of dollars ride on a single answer. As thousands of spectators fill the arena, Jess takes the binoculars, her breathing quickening as panic sets in. She searches the sidelines desperately for any kind of clue. Suddenly, her lens locks onto a familiar face. It's Farhad, Nicky's tech guy, standing on the field wearing jersey number 55. Realizing this is the signal, she speaks the number aloud. A breathless silence follows. Then, the impossible happens. Say confirms it is the exact player he chose. The suite erupts. The billionaire stares in absolute shock while Nicky quietly reclaims his massive fortune. Moments later, the brilliant truth emerges. Every single detail of Say's day had been carefully engineered to subconsciously force him into choosing that exact number. The repeating visual prompts on his drive, the music in his elevator, the stadium signs, everything was a massive psychological setup. Nicky never lost control. He engineered the entire experience from the beginning. Jess realizes she was used as the ultimate prop, because her genuine terror made the performance believable. While Nicky celebrates, she struggles with a painful revelation. Even after months of intimacy, he still kept her completely in the dark. Admiration mixes with deep heartbreak. She finally understands how far he will go to protect his focus. 3 long years pass before Nicky suddenly resurfaces in the vibrant city of Buenos Aires. The criminal environment is completely different from the street-level hustles of New Orleans. Sleek race cars replace crowded festivals, and high-stakes corporate espionage replaces pickpocketing. Hired secretly by a rival racing team owner, Nicky prepares an elaborate, dangerous scheme targeting billionaire motorsport tycoon Rafael Garriga. His mission appears straightforward: pose as a bitter, disgruntled engineer to sell Garriga a fake, sabotaged version of a revolutionary fuel algorithm that will ruin his team's performance. However, during a glamorous, high-society pre-race party filled with wealth and international celebrities, Nicky's flawless composure is shattered. Jess unexpectedly steps into view. The emotional shock lands instantly. She is no longer the vulnerable, inexperienced student he abandoned in New Orleans. Standing confidently by Garriga's side as his stunning girlfriend, she appears entirely transformed by this ultra-luxury world. Bitter, unresolved emotions instantly surge beneath Nicky's carefully maintained professional mask. For Jess, this sudden reunion reopens deep psychological wounds she spent years trying to bury. Their tense conversations carry heavy layers of unfinished history hidden beneath sharp, casual words. Meanwhile, the clock is ticking on the operation. Nicky must maintain his complex cover story with Garriga while navigating the internal chaos of seeing her again. Every interaction threatens to expose the vulnerabilities he spent a lifetime suppressing. As preparations for the high-stakes race intensify, Nicky continually finds excuses to stay close to Jess. Their private conversations shift rapidly between deep resentment and undeniable attraction, never fully settling into either. To break her defenses, Nicky orchestrates a brilliant mind game at a glamorous party, sending his tech guy Farhad to fake deliver an expensive diamond necklace to Jess. In a surprisingly sentimental twist, Farhad returns a cheap necklace to Jess, the exact one she wore 3 years ago in New Orleans, revealing that Nicky had secretly kept it all this time because he couldn't let her go. Moved by this sudden proof of his hidden affection, Jess later goes to Nicky's hotel room to confront him about their messy past. The heavy emotional walls between them completely collapse, and they reconnect physically, allowing years of unresolved tension to finally boil over. Beneath the surface, his actual criminal scheme is bolder than anyone realizes. He is double-crossing his employers by selling the genuine fuel algorithm to multiple rival racing teams simultaneously for millions in illicit profits. Yet, extreme danger remains close by. Garriga's ruthless security chief, Owens, watches Nicky's every move with rapidly growing suspicion, knowing a single mistake in this corporate arena carries lethal consequences. The high-stakes operation reaches a chaotic climax when Nicky completes the multi-million-dollar sales of the stolen fuel algorithm to rival racing teams. On the surface, the massive heist appears to be a total triumph. However, before Nicky and Jess can successfully slip away from Buenos Aires, Rafael Garriga's armed security team ruthlessly intercepts them. Dragged into a dim, heavily guarded private garage, the elegant world of motorsport luxury instantly dissolves into raw menace. Garriga demands absolute answers, and the threat of lethal violence replaces corporate negotiation. Desperate to protect Jess from brutal retaliation, Nicky frantically tries to clear her name. He boldly lies to Garriga, claiming he maliciously manipulated her from the very beginning and that she was merely an innocent pawn used to gain access to the secure team files. The harsh words cut Jess deeply because they sound terrifyingly believable. She listens in absolute shock, unsure if her former lover is performing yet another calculated con to save her life or revealing his true nature. Amidst this high-octane standoff, the layers of deep deception completely collide, exposing the fact that no one in the room possesses full control over the narrative. Trust entirely evaporates as years of lies and unexpressed feelings crash together in a matter of frantic minutes. Trapped in a dangerous corner, Nicky faces the ultimate consequence of his lifestyle, setting up a life-or-death confrontation that feels entirely impossible to escape. The intense garage confrontation explodes into absolute chaos when Owen suddenly draws a gun and shoots Nicky directly in the chest. Crimson blood instantly stains his shirt as a terrified Jess screams in horror and an unhinged Garriga recoils from the sudden violence. For a brief, agonizing moment, everything appears completely lost. Then, a shocking truth begins unfolding. Owens isn't a loyal corporate security chief, he is actually Bucky, Nicky's estranged father. The shooting was an execution of the infamous Toledo panic button, a desperate, high-stakes misdirection tactic designed to simulate a fatal wound. Bucky intentionally targeted Nicky's right lung, knowing exactly how to handle the medical emergency. While a panicked Garriga flees the scene to avoid murder charges, Bucky immediately goes to work, using a precise emergency tube to reinflate Nicky's collapsed lung. As they frantically race away from the garage in a getaway vehicle, years of buried family history finally surface. Bucky explains his cold methods, revealing why he originally abandoned Nicky and why genuine emotional attachments completely terrified him. Stripped of the complex manipulation that usually defines their criminal world, this raw confession centers on a deeply vulnerable, human reality: fear. It is the fear of losing control, and the fear of caring too much. Nicky listens through intense physical pain, realizing that the brutal lessons which shaped his entire life came from a father carrying deep regrets of his own. As dawn slowly approaches, Bucky pulls up to a hospital entrance, drops Nicky and Jess off, and abruptly speeds away with the millions of dollars made from the algorithm scam. His final, parting warning echoes quietly behind them: love gets people killed in this business. Yet, for the first time in his life, Nicky seems entirely unwilling to accept that cold philosophy. Exhausted, physically wounded, and completely stripped of the complex psychological layers he normally hides behind, he turns his full attention toward Jess. The near tragedy has exposed profound emotional truths that neither of them could avoid any longer. Then, a brilliant final surprise alters the mood. Jess smiles and reveals that, despite the absolute madness in the garage, her old street instincts kicked in. She successfully lifted Garriga's luxury Piaget Altiplano watch, valued at over $200,000. This unexpected revelation sparks genuine, shared laughter between them, instantly breaking the heavy tension that has followed their relationship across years and continents. It serves as a perfect, poetic reminder of exactly who they are and how they first connected. Their bond was forged not through standard honesty, but through elite skill, mutual risk, and survival instinct. The future remains inherently uncertain, and they still belong to a dangerous world built entirely on deception. Yet, as they walk into the hospital together, everything has changed. The masks are finally lowered. The performance is officially over, replaced by a rare moment of authenticity.